Hey everyone, welcome to It Tastes Different Game Reviews. In this episode, we're going to talk about Dying Light 2, Stay Human. Dying Light 2 came out on February 4th of 2022 on PlayStation 4 and 5, Xbox One and Series, and the PC. I believe there's a Switch version as well coming out, but I don't think that one's out yet. It was developed by Techland and published by Techland. So it is an action role-playing survival horror, single-player and multiplayer. It is the sequel to Dying Light, if any of you remember that game. The kind of Dying Light was kind of like the sequel or successor to Dead Island. Right, so made by the same people in Dead Island 2 and all that good stuff. And it's single player parkour, combat focus, story focus, side missions, kind of Assassin's Creed type of thing going on with the explosion of the map, but it's not as crazy, no. So a little more streamlined. But we're gonna go around and see what everybody thought of this game. So Patrick, how about you, buddy? What did you think of Dying Light 2?
Holy bugs, Batman, is what I can say about this game. The single player, the bugs are not as prevalent, I would say, but in co-op, oh my god, the bugs are so bad in co-op, which is what we play mostly is co-op. But outside of that, playing single player, I've not ran into a whole lot of bugs. Outside of just some weird audio effects and random things not being able to be picked up or gone through. It's okay. I'm going to say it's okay for now. I'm getting maybe a little bit more details about it as we go forward, but it's open world parkour game, just like the first one, current gen, all that good fun stuff. And I think it needs a little bit more time to bake, but that's my opening thing. Shane, what about your opening thoughts on this one?
I don't have enough anger in my heart to discuss it. I'm really ticked off with it. Let's give you an example of one of the crappiest bugs we have found. I spawned in on somebody who was in a room with no escape. The door was blocked by a shelf or whatnot. I believe Nick was in there first, and then Patrick was like, "Oh, I'm going to spawn over there to you guys." No. You were spawned to us. You weren't trying to spawn, if I remember right. You fast traveled. And so the three of us, we were locked in this little room together with nothing but a sleeping bag and a whole lot of anger. It was a terrible night. That was just one of the things, one of the many broken aspects of this game. Trying to open loot boxes or containers, doors. Pat ran into it first, and then I ran into it. Where I could watch his character. The lid would open on the chest, and the chest would immediately close back down, like nom, 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 I'm going to get you. It's pathetic. There is absolutely no reason for these things. The same thing with doors. I tried to open a door or hit a code or whatever, and game was like, nah, you don't deserve this door. It just pisses me off. We had to restart several times. There's so much broken with this game. They should be offering refunds. This game gave me terrible flashbacks of Cyberpunk on how broken it was. That is just the technical issues. Now, the game itself, they're Assassin's Creeding this thing. It's not better. It's just bigger. Me and Nick, we enjoyed the original. Pat, you and Russ enjoyed the original. Everybody had fun with it. It was one of those games you could just jump in and play for hours and just have a good time. This one here was a chore to play. It was a chore to have fun. We did have a few laughs, but that was technically because the game was busted, or we drop into a room and there's 4,000 brutes just piled up, or you go and sneak up and take out one guy who was crouched over on the ground just to realize there was another guy literally inside that guy. So you woke him up and he kills you. I'll go into more of my pain. Let's let Nick drop his opinion. Nick, what about you, bud?
For me, I overall, besides the co-op, I would agree with Patrick and with Shane in this regard. The co-op is pretty broken. It's very buggy. It works for the most part, but it's a very buggy experience with being able to open up loot chests that don't open, and getting stuck in the room like Shane was talking about. It's a safe room that you're supposed to slide open like a cabinet door from the outside of the room, in which we already had done that, but for some reason the cabinet door came back, and then we all got stuck in the room twice. So co-op wise, it definitely needs more time to get these things ironed out. This is now on the single player side of it. I think it's a pretty enjoyable game, and I think it works fairly well. I've not run into hardly any issues, especially the ones that we have in co-op. I don't run into those during single player. I can open up chests and doors and various things like that, all work just fine. So for me, I think as a single player experience, I think the game works really well. For a co-op multiplayer experience, I think the game needs a lot of work, a lot of bug fixes to fix those out. But other than that, the single player, I've actually been having a lot of fun playing through it. I do personally enjoy it. There's some things that I think need to be changed in a way in which I'm sure we'll get into, but overall, my overall thought of it is I've actually had a lot of fun playing through it and enjoyed it. I haven't gotten bored of it. I've played it quite a bit last night and some today. So yeah, I'm overall liking it for the most part. The since we got our opening opinions of it, just to kind of go off one thing and we can kind of go from there. One of the things that I think could definitely use some reworking with this game is progression. And I don't mean progression story-wise. I mean progression in your stat upgrades and things like that. Because when you start out in this game, your guy is a fumbling, bumbling idiot. Like, you can't jump and hold on to anything. Like, the parkour portion is almost feels broken. Like, in the sense that you can't seem to jump anywhere. When you grab on the ledges, your guy falls off all the time. Your stamina bar runs out like almost instantly, and it's a chore. But I found that as you progress in the game and you up your parkour stats, which you do by finding these injectors or inhibitors or whatever they call them, that are hidden throughout the game, you can use those to upgrade your health or stamina stats, which then you can use to upgrade parkour or combat stats, depending on how, and you get experience for that depending on how much parkouring and combating that you do. So I found that once you start to upgrade those, your guy does become really sufficient in parkouring and also combat, right? But he's very squishy at the beginning, and getting to that point takes a lot of time. And that's the part I'm talking about there, where I think that needs to be a little bit more. Maybe the progression in that needs to be a little bit more quicker, maybe like faster XP gains or something like that to kind of get your character up there. Because it feels like, for me, it felt like the game really started to kick off where it became fun, where I could jump around and do all sorts of crazy stuff, like 20 hours into it. At that point, I'm like, this is cool. I can go anywhere. But before, it's like, man, I'm just falling and hitting things and I can't seem to get anywhere.
Right. Yeah, I would say, and it takes a long time, and yeah, it feels busted. I will honestly say, when I first picked this up, I'm like, the parkour feels very rigid and very bad compared to the first one. And I was comparing it to the first one while we were playing, and I'm like, this just doesn't feel good. The parkour is quite crappy until you get to the part where you're about to, or going into the loop, into the game. The biggest complaint that I have with that is the GRE is the only way to get those is to find the GRE crates. And those are always in like really crappy accessible areas. There's a few outliers so some in some quest zones, but most of them are in the dark stores and the dark areas that you have to go to at night. And you have to stealth too much in those, in my opinion. Like, the game is just like Shane said, it's kind of going Assassin's Creed-ish, right? You have to stealth through this entire thing to clear this building so you can get to this chest or multiple chests that are multiple layers in, while there's an ass ton of zombies in there. And you're like, it's supposed to be cleared out at nighttime, but there's more in here at night. It just seems like their level has gone down. So there's not as many, the altered or whatever they are at night. And so I'm really annoyed with that because you're stuck to the only way to get to branch out into your skills. Like if you want to put more points into parkour, you have to first level up your parkour with those inhibitors. And then that gives you more endurance, which then expands out the parkour bar to where you can pick more for the chart. Because if you don't, you could just go down the center and that's it. And the same thing with combat. So when you get enough GREs, it takes like 3 of those inhibitors to give yourself either 1 combat or 1 stamina or 1 health. Basically, it's what you get. And I'm like, okay. So you have to determine, do I want stamina or do I want health? And then, and then it's like, okay, do I expand the combat tree or do I expand the parkour tree first? And it's too slow in the beginning, extremely too slow. And then the experience is super slow to begin with. I mean, I'm probably 20 hours into it and I feel like I barely got any parkour skills and not that much GRE because I'm not running much outside of the storyline quests except for some side quests. And even running side quests and story quests doesn't give you enough GRE chests to get the inhibitors to make a dent in your progression. So you have to run and do all this side crap. So it's forced you to do the night runs and the night stores and all that stuff, the Forsaken night stores. It's bad because that's where all the GRE chests are. Or you have to do the GRE. What do they call those things? The big baddies that we fought, those little GRE guys.
Yeah, the GRE monsters or whatever.
Yeah, whatever they are. So, I mean, so you got those and then you got the GRE, like canopied buildings, which have multiple tiers and usually have 4 of those chests in there, which give you anywhere from 1 to 3 inhibitors per container. And I'm like, that's really bad. And I'm really disappointed in the co-op story progression or mission progression because I wish you could have a co-op character that you could play together in co-op that progresses everybody's story and everything together in co-op because it seems dumb. Like we played like a whole day and a half on Shane's map and I go back to mine. Yeah. I'm like, all right, I've already ran through all this story crap. I'm just going to burn through it so I can get to where we were after we left co-op. And I'm like, so that to me gets a little bit annoying where I have to repeat some of the stuff that we've already done. And some things carry over and some things don't because I noticed like I had gotten a completed like night area when I went back into mine. And I'm like, I haven't done that yet, but it showed completed biohazard area is what it was. We went on the top of the building and went down. When I got back into my map, it showed completed. And I'm like, I didn't complete that by myself, but it counted it counted from when we were running Shane's map. And I'm like, so it's really weird, and the co-op is busted. That's all there is to it. They didn't need to fix the co-op. The single player seems pretty good. I'm enjoying the single player, but it is just another open world Assassin's Creed with zombies, right?
Yeah, that's the biggest problem, though, is the original game I never touched without a friend in hand. I mean, just the game is for co-op. The game is for friends. The game is for just teaming up and having fun. And you can't do that on this right now. It's just too busted. And like you said, Pat, progression, everything that we did, you guys didn't get no credit. You got to keep certain things, but that's it. The game forces you
basically you keep everything on your person. That's it.
Yep, exactly. The game forces you to run side missions to get the additional experience and the GREs. Plus, you're forced to just explore around while doing those so you can find the ones that aren't part of those missions. And I don't know. It's just a wasted mechanic to fill space. The game is, I think they say 500 hours, tip to top, the timeline on to complete everything. No, it's 500 hours because it takes you 100 hours to get from one end of the map to the other. It's another 100 hours just exploring crap that you don't need to go look at because it's not part of anything, but they're forcing you to do those things. This game is, it's filler fantasy. I mean, it's filler. If you took out all the GRE stuff that you have to do, I mean, how much time do you think this game would take? 60 hours? 100? Most.
I mean, I think you're saying if you did the story quests and the side quests, it's 80 hours.
Yes, exactly.
If you do the main story, it's like a 20-hour mark or something. Which you're going to be way under geared and under leveled if you skip all the side stuff because there's just not enough gear out there to drop to to suffice you when you get to the higher level areas.
Yeah, but they force you to do needless things to pad it out, to be able to to get to the levels you need to be for certain bosses and things like that. They're forcing you to spend needless time doing extra stuff that they did not need to do, just to be able to say, I've got a 500-hour game and it's broken.
Right. I mean, that's the whole thing, is if you're touting 500 hours and it's because of all your side crap, which if your main story and your side missions, if your main story and side missions are one fifth of the amount of hours that you say it takes to beat the game, you have a serious fluff problem, is what I would say. I mean, come on, guys. I'll honestly say that might be fun for co-op, right? If everybody beats the story and then they have their character and we go and do co-op to where we go through and help each other clear out their night areas and the GRE monsters and crap. That might be fun. Running the main storyline as co-op is not very fun because you just get to sit there and watch the same thing you've seen over and over and over again. So that's where the fun's going to come in, right? I mean, now we have another co-op game to put in our rotation, right? Do we feel like beating up some aliens in the
Rainbow Six?
Rainbow Six. Or do we feel like taking out some zombies as a group in Dying Light 2?
Or do we feel like building little block houses in Minecraft?
There you go. Yeah, I mean, my final thoughts here, and we can kind of go through that part, is that for me personally, do I think the game is worth it? I do. If you want to play single player. Okay, if you want to play the single player part, I think the single player portion of the game, just playing it by yourself, works fairly well and is pretty fun, in my opinion. If you want to play co-op with friends, as of now Techland has said that they are working on a patch that's supposed to be coming out soon. Might be coming out by the time you see this. I don't know. That's supposed to fix a lot of the bugs and issues that are having in multiplayer. But for right now, multiplayer portion is not worth it. It is way too buggy. There's just tons of bugs in it. It's fun when it works, but it breaks too often. So until that gets fixed, I would say, pass it up until it gets patched enough to where it's good for multiplayer. But if you want that single player experience, you want to go Assassin's Creed, some zombies, then this is going to be right up your alley. And, it's not as, yes, there's, it feels like for me, there's two maps in this game. You start on one map, and then the second map is the central loop, is what they call it. And they refer to that several times throughout the game. Once you get there is really when the game feels like it's there, right? Like, it started, because that when you're in the first area, that's when you're really powering your character up and kind of getting them there. But once you get to the central loop, it almost feels like now the game has started. Like that was all just tutorial.
That was all prologue, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, it was all prologue. Now we've started the actual game. Like, because you get, everybody knows this, that it exists in the game. You don't get the paraglide. You get a parachute, paraglider, but you don't get that until you get to the central loop, which takes about, I don't know. I think I have like 20 some odd hours in the game, and that's side quests included. But, that would probably take you, with side quests included and stuff, probably about 20 hours or so of doing all this story and side quests and various things like that, just to get to the central loop where you finally get a paraglider. And then the hook, I don't know when you get that. I don't even have that yet. So sometime down the line. So for me, it just seems like I enjoy the game a lot, but it seems like progression is really slow. Just progression in skills and stuff that you get and everything like that. Like having the paraglide is really cool, but I wish I had it earlier. But I'm glad I have it now. But it seems like these things should come a little bit quicker. But, I guess that was their design idea for the characters, to be a slow progression. But ultimately, do I think it's worth it? Yes, I do. I think it's worth it. I think if you went out and bought it, you wouldn't be, unless you played co-op. I think single player, if you're kind of familiar with the game, then you'll enjoy it, I think.
I respect your opinion, and I would die for your freedom of speech, but you're completely ass wrong. This game is not worth the purchase until they fix everything, or at least 75% of the bugs that we had, because this game is meant for co-op. I would not purchase it. That's just my opinion, of course, because there's just too much broken. This game touts 4-player co-op, but when you and your players are all locked into a freaking room together with one sleeping bag, it's just not worth it. We need at least 2 sleeping bags. We're going to get stuck. This, I feel bad. A company called Techland has such broken tech. So shame on them for releasing it. But I'm also bitter though. I'm also tired of, as Pat calls it, being a beta tester who pays them to beta test. I'm tired of broken games. I am tired of these BS excuses about releasing it and how, we will do better in the future. You said that in the last 5 games, Jackwagon. I'm just burnt, and I'm tired of being burnt on broken games. I would not purchase this game right now until Techland fixes the many bugs. Even if the single player works 100% perfect, beautiful, no problem, still not going to purchase it because that is not what this game is about. This game is also about the cooperative experience with your friends. They've taken that away from me from being broken. So, nana boo boo, stick your head in doo doo.
I mean, I will admit this is a co-op game. It always has been, because when the first one came out, Russ and I played it together, and that's about the only way I would play it. Now, I've played quite a bit of this single player just because, for the review, and then, just to get stuff opened up. So if we decide we're going to keep playing it together, it's once they get all the bugs fixed, that we can jump in each other's map and do all the night runs and stuff like that we want to do. For me, it's a buy because I enjoy these kind of games, and it will be my filler until my next game comes out that I'm really looking forward to. Because I can put tons of time into it when I'm bored or whatever, So to me, it's a buy. It's unfortunate that it's such an expensive buy for a AAA studio. You shouldn't be putting out something this busted, but it is playable single player, but not co-op. So, I mean, that's where they put their focus in, was obviously making sure the single player was polished up enough to play. And so far, I've ran into very few bugs in the single player that were but the multiplayer, man, it's buggy. It's horrible. We're stopping every 45 minutes or something because one of us has to reboot because we got a sound bug, or I can't open a chest anymore. You can't open a door, or the host randomly disconnects from us and we all have to reboot our game so we can all join back up again and go through that. Or we get the locked in a safe house that's already been unlocked and we just can't open the door because somebody slid the bookcase back in front of it, something. So for me, I would buy it because of that. And it's quite massive, and it's got quite a bit of cool stuff in it, but they do force you into a lot of content that I wish I just didn't have to. Like the parkour in the beginning, as Nick said, and I have said, is horrible. It's atrocious. And there's so many parkour side games in this thing. And I'm like, no, parkour is too busted right now. Your guy's going to hit the side of a roof and crack his jaw and fall off into a horde of enemies, And I'm like, no.
And how many times did that happen to me and you?
A lot. I mean, it happens a lot because I honestly think the parkour is somewhat busted because some of the moves just don't seem to work right. And he seems stiff-armed when he does some of the parkour moves. So I feel like a lot of some of it's busted, but that's just me. It just feels very stiff, and that might be their intention to get you to just dump more points into it. Because in the beginning of the game, I will give you one tip. You would think health is important in a zombie apocalypse, but stamina is way more important. I probably pump 3 to 1 into when I get those GREs. I pump 3 stamina for every 1 health that I boost myself, just so I can get more parkour abilities unlocked. Because the health ones, the combat ones they're meh, compared to the parkour ones. Because you do a lot more parkouring than you do fighting a lot of times. Because most of the time you're stealth killing zombies instead of, outright fighting them hand to hand. And maybe that will change in the future. But I just find if I ever run into a room full of zombie assholes, I just throw a freaking Molotov cocktail in there and let them all bake. So I don't even go into combat with them,
Let them all bake. Yeah, I did the same thing.
It's take and bake.
Yeah, that's right.
And I helped.
I would agree, though. When I started the game, too, I pumped more into stamina than I did health. That was the first thing I pumped it into was stamina because like I was saying, your parkouring abilities at the beginning of the game were horrible. You can't you're supposed to be a runner, but you can't run worth crap. But as you progress it, and spend more skill points into it, man, you're just leaping all over the place, right? You're jumping, hanging on things. And so they put all like and I understand why, but I mean, like, they put all the fun behind that, right? Because once you get there, you're like, now I'm having fun because I'm like Spider-Man, but without the webs, right? So I can jump and spin and go over and go, just do all sorts of crazy parkour moves. But at the beginning of the game, you can't. So that's really, and it takes a long time to get there. That's why I was saying the progression is slow. So other than that, though, once you do get there, I think the game is fun. So far, I've had a good time from getting to where I am now. But I think as you progress, it gets more fun as you progress, because you get more of those skills where you can do a lot of cool stuff. Anywho, that's what I think. Depends on what everybody else thinks out there. It's your own opinion if you want to pick this game up, or if you maybe already have. I know this game is pretty top on the charts for Steam, and probably number one, or at least going to be in the top 10 games of February, I would assume. Probably not number one, but because we have another game coming out that I think might hit number one. Or a couple of games, actually, that might hit number one coming out this month. So, but no, I think this will definitely be in the top 10 because I think it's doing fairly well. Does anybody have anything else they want to say about this before we head out?
One last thing. Techland needs to fix techlandgg.com. I still never got my reward. Did you get your sword reward, Nick?
I never even got on the site. I can't get on there.
Nope.
I put in the code, registered my thing, and linked my Xbox account to it, and then hit give me my free sword. And guess what? It never showed up in the game. And I'm like, okay.
Were you on Pornhub again?
Yeah, maybe. Maybe it was the wrong sword. It was the meat sword I was trying to get.
Sign up on the wrong site.
But I never got it. And there's items that are locked still, too. It says go to Techland and register your account, and you can get access to the pre-order stuff and some of this stuff. And I'm like, I still can't get that crap. It's still locked out. So they need to fix their website. I mean, that thing's been down, and every time you go to it, it's like, this site certificate is valid. It's an attack website. So all the major sites out there are flagging it as a risk site and everything. So I don't know. Fix your stuff, because I want my free sword. But by the time I'm going to get it, it's probably going to be like a level 2 or 3 sword, or a level 2 or 1 sword. I'm going to be in 4s and 5s.
Yeah.
So fix that crap.
Yeah, by the time you get it, it won't be worth it.
All right.
All right. Well, thanks everybody for watching. I hope you enjoyed this review. Let us know in the comments below. Have you played this game yet? And what do you think about Dying Light 2? Do you like it? Do you hate it? Are you on Shane's side, or are you on our side? Where the single player is great, but the co-op could really use some work. I think we all agree on that part. The co-op could definitely use some work, because co-op is busted. Single player is fine, but co-op, it needs some help. So let us know what you think down below. But thanks everybody again for watching. Make sure to like the video. Make sure to subscribe. Hit the bell notification to stay up to date with new videos that we do all the time. And we'll see you next time. Bye-bye, everyone.
See ya.